that name. I don't know if our younger chefs are gonna know the reference, but we got it from an old cartoon of Popeye, and he would eat his spinach to become really, really strong. So today, we are using a different kind of green. We've got some Swiss chard here, some curly kale, and then we also have some Tuscan kale. So you can use any kind of greens you want. You can also use spinach if you'd like. You can pick one of these greens, or you can pick all of the above. And then, so first off, before we get started, the first things we need to do is we want to go preheat our oven to 450 degrees. And then we also have our pizza dough right here. For anybody who ordered our kits, you want to take those out to start warming them up, so it's nice and easy for us to roll out. So while everybody's getting all their things together, I'm just going to go over some of the stuff we have here and what we're going to need for today. So some of our tools we need is we need a small saucepan or saute pan. I used a saute pan because I think it'll be a little easier for you guys to see. A spatula and a whisk, and that's going to be for our sauce. And then you're going to use a really big saute pan over here for all of our greens. Then we're also going to need our chopper, our cutting board, a grater, and a rolling pin. So those are all the tools we'll need. Oop, and a few more. I missed a few. So we have also got a tablespoon, a fork, and a spoon we'll need too for spreading. So those are all the tools we'll need, and then we're gonna move on to our ingredients. So we're gonna use a little bit of oil, all of our greens obviously, some salt, we've got some onion here, and then some garlic. We've got a little bit of butter. I've got flour for our dough, just in case it's a little bit wet. And then we also are gonna use some of our flour for our sauce. Our milk for our sauce, some cornmeal to roll out our pizza dough. And then the shining stars of the day, my favorite thing, is cheese. So we're using 3 cheeses today. Do we have any guess what this cheese could be? Any guesses? It's a really hard cheese. It's a cheese that you used a lot on pasta. Any guesses? What do you think? All right, well, I'm gonna move on to our softer cheese. We've got a softer cheese right here. This one is typically the one you find on pizza. It's also the cheese that they use for string cheese. So we can guess that one too. And then we've got our softest cheese right here. We've got our ricotta cheese. And this one you usually find in lasagna, but today we're putting it on pizza. So, if we have not guessed what these are, we've got our triangle hard cheese. What are our thoughts, guys? What could it be? It's Parmesan cheese. And then we have our mozzarella. So the mozzarella I actually like to keep in the fridge as long as possible because it is very soft, and when you grate really soft cheese, it's a little bit harder to grate. So you definitely want to keep that in the fridge as long as you can. So the first thing we're gonna do today is we're gonna get our hands washed. We gotta be nice and clean. So while everybody's checking in, I'm gonna go get my hands washed and I'll be right back. Everybody back and ready to get started? Can we give maybe a thumbs up if we're ready? I'll wait just a second to see how everybody's doing.
Somebody asked what we're making today.
We are making something called Popeye Pizza. So typically you make a red sauce for pizza. We are going to be making a white sauce for our pizza, and then we put on our greens on top. Any thumbs up yet back there? Not yet. Okay. Give you guys a moment.
Jack and Macy are here.
Ooh, hey Jack and Macy. How's it going?
And we got a thumbs up.
Oh, nice.
Two thumbs up. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we are ready to get started then. So the first thing we are going to do today is we are going to work on our sauce. Our sauce we're making today is called the bechamel sauce. So the first thing we need is this right here. So if you order a kit, I gave everybody a little chunk like this. And it's got all the skin still on it. So if you see all that outside skin, we don't want that there. So we're gonna take our onion, and if you see, there's a root at the bottom, and then there's the top of our onion right here. The top is the part we're gonna chop off. So I'm gonna hold on with my bear claw, and for anybody who hasn't used our choppers before, we've got our choppers here. You can see there's a long side and a short side. The long side's away from us, And then with our bear claw, we're gonna curl in all our fingers, push down and chop right through. So this is gonna be for our parents to do, the first part. We're just gonna chop off that outside skin, and then you can pass it to the kids to peel off that first layer. Peel it right off.
Daniela and MJ are here too.
Hi, Danielle and MJ. So I'm gonna get that out of the way. Miss Eleanor, do you actually wanna grab me a garbage roll?
Yeah.
That would be perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna pass our onion back to our parents, and they're gonna do some slices for us. The first part is slicing it into little pieces like this, which we call our little white rainbows. So once you do that, you can slice your whole onion up like that, and then you can pass them out to everybody in your group. So I'm just gonna push down, because this part's really hard to get through the whole big piece. So we're gonna push down and chop all the way through. And then I will pass those out to my imaginary friends, or just me. And then we're gonna get chopping. So, once we have our rainbow, we're gonna face it right towards us. Again, we're gonna curl in all our fingers. We wanna look right on the other side of our chopper, make sure there's a nice small piece. We want a pretty small dice for our onions, because this is gonna go into our sauce, and we don't want really large chunks. Ooh, I've got some strong onions here today. Very strong. So, with that, it's very important to mention, guys, that you do not want to touch your eyes once you chop these onions, because it can irritate your eyes a little bit. My eyes are already tearing up. But in a different class we were doing, so we've always said that one of the things that can help prevent your eyes from tearing up is the enzymes in the onion are attracted to the moisture, and you have the most moisture in your eyes. So if you stick out your tongue like this, it'll go to your tongue instead. But we had somebody in our class the other day, in our virtual class, who mentioned another thing you can do that he's done before is put a little bit of water on the tip of your nose. So that's a new fun way to do it. Whew. These are very, very strong. Another thing you can do to prevent the onion from irritating your eyes as much is you don't want to chop over a lot and break up that skin. So you just want to do very exact chops. And that is still not helping me, but you can also put it in the fridge, and that'll help it not irritate you quite as much. Ooh, I might need a tissue for these eyes. All right, wow. I've got them almost all the way through. How's the chopping going there, guys? Oh, thank you. Oh, that is one strong onion. Okay. So, there we go. So I've got all my little pieces of onion right there, if you guys can see. And what we want to do is we are going to take our onions. I actually only need a 1/4 cup of onions for this. If you're really into onions, you can definitely put them all in. There's no such thing as too much onion, because it's delicious. But I'm going to put just about a 1/4 cup in here, so I don't need quite that much. I'm going to put right about, that should be good. Okay, and I can put this over here in my bowl. Whew. All right, so now that my eyes are super irritated and tearing a lot, I'm gonna flip over my cutting board, get all that out of here, and I'm actually gonna go wash my hands one more time. And I'm back. All right, so if you guys are ready, we've got our pan here with our onions in it. And the first thing I'm gonna do for my sauce is I am going to cook our onions down a little bit. So I'm gonna take our butter right here. So we have about 1.5 tablespoons of butter, and put that in there. And I'm gonna start this up on a medium low. We don't want it too high. You know what would help? If I put butane in our burner. Can't cook that without butane. All right, let's try this one more time over here. Pop that in. There we go. Now we're cooking with fire. All right, so I'm gonna turn that down, about a medium low there, and get that cooking. And while that is going, we can move on to our next ingredient. Does anybody remember what our next ingredient was? What was this? Any idea? It is our garlic. Our garlic is next. So, we just need 1 clove of garlic. If you can see, once again, the bottom of the garlic where it's all held together in the bulb, we want to chop off because it's kind of hard right there. So I'm going to take that, curling in my fingers, and chop the bottom right off. That we can discard. And then our parents can do this part is, once again, break it up for us. Give us a few different slices. So depending on how many people are in your group is how many slices you want to slice it into. I'm going to push all those slices to the side, and then we can pass out our garlic to all of our friends. We're going to curl in our fingers right here and do small little chops. So our garlic's a little bit different. We want our garlic to be very, very tiny, and it's called mincing when you chop something super tiny. So first off, I'm going to slice all of my garlic pieces into some smaller pieces, just like that. We got 2. Then on to 3, and you can hear that my butter is going and it's starting to sizzle a little bit over there. So move that around just a bit. I better get on this garlic, otherwise my onions are going to be ready. Okay, I'm going to turn it down even lower. That is a powerful flame. Okay, I think that's as low as I can get it without it going out. All right, back to garlic. So we're still slicing. We've got it all into a small dice now almost. Just like that. And then we are going to take our garlic and we're going to put it in one big pile in the middle. We're going to put both of our hands on top of our chopper and we're going to do tiny little bunny hops right on top. So think about how a bunny hops. He's not jumping like this. So if we do that, you see my garlic's going everywhere. So we want to do just tiny little chops. Very, very small. Does anybody remember the word I said that is called when you chop something really tiny? Any ideas? I'll give you a second. See if anybody can remember. And we're just hopping. And then push back to the center. Okay. Well, that looks perfect. So our onions are all cooked there. I'm going to turn it down and just keep on mincing. We want to make our garlic super duper tiny because we want to spread that garlic flavor all throughout our sauce. We want to make sure there's nice little pieces all throughout our whole sauce. Chop, chop, chop. Chop, chop, chop. Okay, did anybody come up with that word I mentioned before? What is it called when you chop something really, really tiny? No, we've got a quiet crew today. It's all right. It's called mincing. Mincing, say it with me. We are going to mince up our garlic. All right. So I'm going to spread this out so you guys can see it a little bit better. But this is what we're looking for. So nice, teeny, tiny pieces of garlic, okay? And our garlic burns very quickly. So we've got that butter all cooked, and we just want to add in our garlic for about 30 seconds to a minute, just until it's fragrant. So just until you start to smell our garlic in there. We don't want to actually have color on our garlic. We just want to make it nice and clear. It becomes a little bit clear inside there, a little bit more white. I'm going to mix that up. Give it just a few seconds.
Rita got it. She said minced.
Oh, nice job. Who was it, Rita? Oh, well done, Rita. Good memory. Okay. So I've got all of my garlic cooked in there and all of my onion, and I put in my butter. So this is our sauce we're working on now. So what we need for our sauce, remember earlier I was talking about we're making a white sauce instead of a red sauce, and this is called a bechamel sauce. We are gonna make something called a roux first, which is when you take butter and flour and make it into a paste. And then we'll add in our liquid, and that'll thicken up from our butter and flour. So I'm gonna add in 1 tablespoon, just like that. Oop, and I didn't show everybody. If you did not know about measuring, you wanna put your finger really, really straight, kind of like a pencil, and just go right over the top. So make sure not to dig in there. You wanna go all the way up, get a nice heaping scoop, and just right over the top, okay? So I put that 1 tablespoon in, and we are gonna start to mix it up with our butter. Make it all into a nice paste. So, I used all whole wheat flour here for this. You can definitely use all-purpose, but the whole wheat flour is going to make our sauce a little bit brown in there, if you can see.
We have a joke if you want.
Ooh, we've got a joke. I do want a joke.
How do you fix a broken pizza?
How do you fix a broken pizza? I'm really bad at guessing jokes. Miss Ellen, did you know?
They told us the answer.
Oh, you already know the answer.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have that. Okay.
I can tell you whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Tomato paste.
Ah, tomato paste. So good. So good. Love it. Okay, guys. So I'm going to turn my burner back on right there. And I've got 1 cup of milk here. And what we're going to do is you are going to have to mix at the same time as you're adding your milk in. So you're going to add it in a little bit at a time. Just like that. And then you're going to mix it all together. The reason why you don't want to add it all in at once is because you'll end up with a very lumpy sauce. So you're not getting all of that paste completely mixed in together. So I've got that milk mixed in, and I'm going to add a little bit more. And just keep on mixing. Make it nice and smooth again. This is one you can definitely turn to a whisk if you'd like. But since I have such a small surface here, the spatula is working just fine. Okay. So we got just a little bit in there, and I'm going to keep on going and add some more. Add a little bit and mix it up. Perfect. All right, and this is our bechamel sauce. So this sauce is a really fun sauce. It's called one of our mother sauces. There's 5 different mother sauces, and this is one of them. You can use this, it's like a starter is what a mother sauce is. You can do many different things with it. So our bechamel sauce, you can also make macaroni and cheese with it, and just change the cheese. Does anybody have any guess what cheese you do for macaroni and cheese? We'll come back to that. You can also make Alfredo pasta with it and add in a different type of cheese again. Actually, one of the cheeses that we're using today, Parmesan cheese. Does anybody have any guesses what we think cheese goes into mac and cheese? What do we think that could be? It's cheddar. It's cheddar cheese. All right. So, now that it's pretty liquidy and all that paste is in our sauce, we can go ahead and add all the rest. So, what we want to do is just every once in a while mix this up. We're going to cook it for, depending on the amount of sauce you're making, is how long you're going to cook it for, because you'll just see it to start thickening up. We'll probably, since we're only using a cup of milk today, only need to cook it for about 10-15 minutes at the most. On a low simmer. But like I said, it depends on the amount of sauce. If you ever try to make a whole bunch of bechamel sauce, it'll take quite a long time. Alrighty, so I've got that all set, and now we can move our cutting board out of the way, and we are gonna start working with our dough. I've got our dough right here. So today's dough that we put in the pizza kits for anybody who got those is a very wet dough. So I brought along a little extra flour for you, and we're gonna do something called kneading. Has anybody ever heard the word kneading? What it's doing is it's incorporating everything into it, it's stretching the gluten in there, and we are gonna take the palm of our hands right here, and we are gonna push down and then fold our dough over. Push down and fold it over, just like that. So you don't want your dough to be super duper dry, you just wanna make sure that it's not sticking to your hand, okay? So I don't need all that flour. I went for a little bit too much flour there. Woo! My sauce is going crazy. Look away for 1 second. All right, let me give that a quick stir. All right. But it's already starting to thicken, you can see it. One of the ways you can tell that it's thickening, you'll see how it's coating your spoon, or your spatula, or your whisk, whatever you're using. Okay. I'm gonna give it a good stir. I'm gonna let that sit again. And I've got our dough. And get all this flour away so I don't make a complete mess. There we go. And then this portion of dough that we gave with our cooking kits is 1 pound of dough. We say that this feeds about 6 kids or 4 adults. So depending on how many people you have over there is how many times you want to cut it up. So I'm going to make a kind of bigger pizza today. So I'm going to do mine in 4. So I'm going to cut it right down the middle, just like that. And then I'm going to go the other way with each one. So right down the middle again. And we've got 2. And then one more time, right down the middle. Perfect. Okay, I can get those dough balls out of the way because I'm just going to work with this guy right here. Ooh, our sauce is looking good. Beautiful. Okay, and I don't know if you guys can see, but you can see how it's kind of thicker when you move it around and drip it off your spatula there. So I think that's just about the thickness we're looking for. But I'm going to give it 1 more second. So now we are going to move on to our cornmeal. So I'm going to take all of my pincher fingers and get a pretty good pinch of cornmeal. Pretty good pinch. So last week's pizza class, I made a heart-shaped pizza. Today, I was thinking about making a star pizza. What do you guys think? So what I'm going to do for that, first off, what you want to think about when you're thinking about a star, can you guys see me over there? Is there's going to be 1 point right here. It's kind of like your body. There's a point where your head is. There's 2 points right here where your arms are. And then if you put your legs out, we got 2 points right here. So that's the shape we're looking for. So you guys can do that at home if you need a little visual of what you're looking for. So I'm going to take my dough, and I'm kind of roll it into more of a square-like shape. All right, and I'm actually going to take this off so we don't go spilling our sauce and let it cool down a little bit so it's all ready to use. Move this to the side here. Okay. Back to our dough. So we're taking our dough and we are going to flip it on both sides, get that cornmeal on both sides. One thing you do want to remember is you want to stick with the shape that you go with. As soon as you roll out your dough, you don't want to bunch it back up and then roll it out again. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a really tough dough and it's going to be really hard to roll it out. So we're going to use the handles and just go back and forth, back and forth. So mine's a little sticky still, so I'm just going to move it around, turn it upside down, and go back and forth again. Big rolls. Okay. One more time. Ugh. We are looking for the size of our face, generally speaking. I like my pizza dough pretty thin. I like a really crunchy pizza, but if you like it more of a thick crust, then you can definitely make a smaller pizza. It's going to be a little smaller, but you're going to have a lot more of that crust there. Oh, this is some very sticky dough. It just keeps wanting to bounce back at me. All right, so we're just turning it, flipping it, just back and forth. Whoop. Flip it again. Okay. So, like I said, you can make your pizza into any shape you want. Sometimes it's fun to make it look like a pizza slice. Or we can do different animals. But you just have to use your imagination. All right, so I think that's just about the size I'm looking for right there. And remember, we've got our point here, we've got the 2 points here, and then thinking of our legs is 2 points, okay? So the first point, the top of the head, we are gonna just tear a little strip down the side. And then on the other side of our head, it's kind of like we're making a person. And then we've got the 2 arms right here, right? So we're going on the sides. So we're gonna make a rip right there on the side, and then another rip over here. So we've got our head, we've got our arms, and now we've got our legs that we need to worry about, right? So we're just gonna go right down the center and rip right there. Okay? Then you can kind of take your dough, just like Play-Doh, you're just stretching it out, moving it in the direction you want, okay? I'm gonna pull the head up a little bit. Oop, I've got a tiny, tiny head, very large legs. Okay, and then we're gonna start working on our crust. For our crust, we're gonna take just 2 little pincher fingers, and we are just gonna pinch up the edge and push it down. And remember, there's a point at the end of each of the star points, so you can make that nice and pointy right at the top. So I'm just gonna pinch down and roll over, pinch down, and just follow your rips. Follow them all the way around. I'm gonna put this one into a point at the end, and then keep on going. How's everybody doing out there? Anybody come up with some fun shapes they're gonna do? Anybody? Well, if you do, I would love to see a picture. If you guys want to post it on Facebook or Instagram, we'd love to see everybody's creations. Alright, and keep on going. It's not the prettiest star I've ever made, but I'm sure it'll be the tastiest. Okay, all the way around. Stretch that way. Got a little point at the edge, and then keep on rolling. Keep it rolling. All right, guys, and I'm just gonna wiggle it around a little bit to make sure it's not stuck to the table. And then I'm gonna go get our sheet pan with parchment. So I have this right here. If you're doing it with multiple people, you can always use the parchment paper, take a pencil, and next to the pizza, you can write your name with a little arrow. Make sure not to write the pencil underneath your pizza dough though, because then sometimes when you lift it up, you end up with some of that pencil on your pizza, and you don't want that. So now that I've flopped it on here, I can reshape it a little bit. I'm gonna get that original shape back.
Elizabeth is doing a flower shape.
Ooh, Miss Elizabeth, I like that. I would love to see a flower pizza. Very cool. Good idea. Okay, so now you can see, let me turn it around for you. We've got our star-shaped pizza. So much fun. But we don't want this to turn into a big balloon inside of our oven. So we are gonna take our fork that we got earlier, and we are gonna poke a bunch of little holes in it. This is sealing the top of our crust to the bottom, and it'll let out all the air that might wanna fill inside of our crust. So I'm gonna go poke, 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 poke. And then we've got, remember we have our oven preheating at 450. So we are gonna pop our crust and par bake it. That means we're just gonna cook it a little bit so it firms up a little bit so it's ready for us to put some toppings on. So we're gonna put that in the oven for about 6 to 7 minutes. So I'm gonna go do that right now while you guys finish up. Okay, crust is in. Perfect. So, now that we're at this point, I think I'm gonna clean up some of my stuff. Clean my area a little bit. So we're all done with these and these. Get this out of here. And then we're gonna move on to this. So, like I was talking about earlier, we have a very pretty Swiss chard. This is red chard. You can also get bunches of rainbow chard, and it comes in different colors, so there's yellow, and it's not on the leaves, it'll just be down the stem. There's a white one, pretty cool. So for this, you can always use the stem of your chard or your kale if you want to chop it up into little pieces, but we are going to use just the leaves right now. So we are going to go around our stem and just use our fingers and pull off those leaves, just like that. So I got a chunk there. Goes right down the stem. And then we're gonna go on the other side. All the way down. And for this part, we actually just need our fingers. And so we want to tear up our Swiss chard. We're just going to rip it up into little pieces about this size, and then we're going to saute it in our pan. So I can get our big saute pan now, bring that on over, place that there for us, and we just start ripping it in. Perfect. And like I was saying, you can use all sorts of different greens for this. Another topping that would be really good with the white sauce would be broccoli. You can always do that. There's lots of different options. So we just keep on ripping. And rip. And for this, we are actually going to add a little bit of oil to saute. And our greens, not like spinach. If you guys have ever cooked spinach at home, you'll see this giant bowl of spinach. You start cooking it, and it all cooks down into this tiny amount. Cooks out all that water. Well, our Swiss chard and kale does not. It actually holds its shape a little bit better. It'll wilt a little bit and get a little bit smaller, but it definitely does not lose the volume like it does in spinach. So if you are using spinach, make sure to cook a lot more because it's really going to cook down. So much tearing. Fingers are going to be tired after this. Okay. Not even done with my first leaf, guys. Might be here all day. Whew. I hope you guys have a few more helpers over there than I do. And we're ripping. And we're ripping. Okay. All right, I'm going to start doubling up. I layered this one, so I'm tearing 3 pieces at once. There we go. That's speeding it up a little bit. All right, so that is all of our red chard right there. And now we can move on to our next one. We've got our curly leaf kale. The curly leaf kale is actually a lot more fun to rip off because it's got a harder stem. So what you can do is you can hold it upside down just like this, and you kind of just wrap your hand around it and just pull straight down. And it just kind of rips off. Rip. Okay. So I got my stem over there, and then we're going to tear that stuff up. Has anybody ever tried kale before? Kale has a pretty strong flavor. It actually can be somewhat hard to digest if you have more of a sensitive stomach. But fun fact is if you cook your kale, it kind of works on breaking it down for you some, and it's easier for your body to digest. So we can still get lots of our healthy vitamins from that, and it'll just be a little bit easier on our belly. Still ripping. Okay. Oh, and another really fun fact about kale is, did you guys know, so I was saying that there's lots of vitamins in kale? Well, 1 cup of kale is more vitamin C than an orange. Who would have thought, right? So, turns out you don't have to only eat oranges to get your vitamin C. Almost done. Whew. Okay, so now I've got not all my curly leaf. I got another one, guys. One more time. Here we go. Whoa. Whoa. Throwing kale. Watch out. All right. Got 1 more leaf of our curly, and then we'll move on to our last type of kale. Okay. I could eat kale all day. One of my favorite things to eat are kale chips, where you roast them in the oven. Or you can make a kale salad, which is really fun to do because you can put oil and lemon juice on them and kind of rub the kale and it'll soften. And the lemon juice will cook our kale a little bit to make it nice and tender for us. Beautiful. Still ripping here, guys. Almost done. 2 more pieces. 3 more pieces. All right, I'm putting them in a pile again. I'm gonna rip those guys up. Okay, and if anybody's behind, don't worry. You can always, we put all of our videos on our website, so you can always watch them later. So not to worry, because I know sometimes I move a little bit quick. So now we have our red chard, we've got our curly kale, and we're moving on to our last one. So this one is called Tuscan kale, or it has another name. It's called dinosaur kale. Does anybody have an idea why it could be dinosaur kale? Kind of a weird name, right? Let's see, let's get a little bit closer. Why do you think they might name it something like that? Let's see if anybody knows. I'm gonna leave that one out there for a minute. See if we can come up with anything. But just like our Swiss chard, this one you're not gonna grab and rip down like our curly kale. You gotta go right around the stem, straight down the stem. Anybody have any idea about the dinosaurs? No? No idea? Well, it's because it kind of looks like the outside of a dinosaur's skin, right? A little bit? What do you think? Do I look like a dinosaur? Okay, I'm gonna keep on ripping. Alrighty. So when we are ready, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little oil in here like I was talking about. Just a few teaspoons, you don't need too much. And then we're gonna do, once again, a medium-low heat. Our kale, we do not wanna burn our kale, so we don't wanna get it all brown. We just wanna wilt it. So you wanna keep it pretty low. But if you have it on more of a medium and you're able to constantly stir it, that should work too. Ripping and ripping. All right, we are done, guys. Shake those arms out. Shake them out. Whew. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little bit of our oil and drizzle that on top. And then I'm gonna turn our burner back on. Bring down that heat a little bit. And then I've got our secret ingredient, salt. You always wanna make sure to salt your kale. So we're gonna get our pincher fingers out, just kind of like a little alligator mouth, like this. Nom nom nom. So we're gonna take one little pinch, sprinkle it on top. I've got a lot of kale here. I think I'm gonna go for a few more. Let's do 3 pinches. 2, and then 3. Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna let that cook for just a little bit. I actually lost my spatula, so I'm gonna get another spatula. And then we're gonna move on to the next ingredient. Quick mix too before I move on. Beautiful. So, we are moving on to my favorite thing again. What was it, guys? It's our cheese. Okay, so we've got our cheese grater here, which we're gonna need. But first, if you bought our kits, we have very big chunks of cheese here. So once again, we need to do some dividing up. So I'm using a pretty small grater. So we wanna make our cheese slices about the width of the grater, okay? Because if it's any wider, it's not gonna grate. It's not gonna work. So I'm gonna cut all my pieces about this big. Because that's something very easy to hold on to. And they're nice and long, so you can keep your fingers pretty far back. I'm gonna slice those over here, and then we've got our Parmesan cheese. So the Parmesan cheese, there's a harder side on one side of it. You can see it's a little bit darker over here. This is the outside. You can definitely still grate all of it, but it's a lot tougher to grate. So I like to hold on to the side that's darker. And I'm gonna chop all the way through our Parmesan. And then once again, go the other way, so we've got nice thin pieces. Just like that, see? Let me give this a quick stir. Don't want to burn my kale. And lovely. Let that sit some more. And I'm going to go back to chopping. So all the way through. And then I'm going to slice it the other way. Oh, just looking at this cheese makes me tired. All right, guys. So we are going to start with our Parmesan cheese. You were gonna put your grater on a diagonal. You wanna hold it against your cutting board so you have something to brace against. And then you're gonna pull your fingers back and just start going up and down. Whoop, cheese already broke. Let's try that again. Up and down, up and down. All right. One more stir. Looks like my kale is just about done. It's turning really bright green and it's wilting just a tiny bit. All right, back to grating. Here we go. All right, friends. So what do you think? Who has a favorite cheese out there? What would be our favorite cheese? If we could eat any cheese, I would pick, that changes all the time because I absolutely love cheese. I would eat pretty much any cheese, but I would probably say Asiago cheese. My favorite cheese on pizza, like I was talking about last week, is Chihuahua cheese. Because Chihuahua cheese is really soft, it melts really well, but it's also extra salty, which I love. So, we've got those pieces there. I'm gonna move that to the side and keep on grating. All right, and it looks like our kale is done, so I'm gonna turn that off. Doing one final stir, and then I'll show you guys. So if you can see, our kale turned really bright green. It's still generally around the same amount that we originally did, but it's wilted just a tiny bit. Put that back down. That is a big saute pan. Slightly impressed I lifted that with one hand. All right. Up and down, up and down. I will not need to work out after this cooking class, that's for sure. Whew. Okay. So since I just made one pizza, I'm gonna cheat a little bit and not finish all my Parmesan, because this is all the Parmesan I'm gonna need on my pizza. And we've got more cheese to grate after this. So I'm gonna push all my Parmesan over here, a little bit more, a little bit. And then, move those to the side. I'm gonna clear off my plate on one side and put all my grated cheese right there. So I like to prep everything ahead of time and have it all set up. And this is called mise en place. And it means everything in its place. So I've got my Parmesan cheese all ready for when we are moving on to topping, and then we're gonna move on to our mozzarella cheese. So I probably should have started with this one first, just because I was talking about it's a softer cheese, so it's actually harder to grate. But you just really wanna push. We're gonna push that cheese in there. Make sure that you're not pushing your fingers though against the grater, because just like it can grate our cheese, it can grate our fingers, okay? Up and down, up and down. We're just getting all the way through that. All right. And one of the fun things about our mozzarella cheese is it sometimes breaks off into these little chunks, and we can always eat those. Maybe we'll give those a try after this. Beautiful. I've got through one block of our mozzarella. Let's move on to the next one. Here we go. I clearly have had my mozzarella out too long because it is very soft at this point. So definitely got them warmed up in here. So I'm really having to smush it into my grater. And you also want to make sure you're moving the pile out of the way, because it's going to be harder to grate if you've got this giant pile of cheese that you're trying to smash it against on the other side, okay? So I'm going to move that pile over there and keep on going. Almost there, guys. Almost a tasting time, 'cause I am starving. So hungry. Oof. There we go. Move it a little bit over so I can get this last piece done. All right, beautiful. So I'm going to put my little chunks to the side to taste. And that cheese out of the way. And then if you don't want to eat all the little chunks, you can also rip them up into tiny little pieces. So the cheese nicely melts across our whole pizza. mozzarella cheese and put it on the other side. Yeah? Fabulous. All right, guys, you ready to do some tasting? Are you guys still grading? So, when we go to taste, if you don't want to wash your hands all over again, what you're going to do is just tilt your head back and drop it in. Don't touch your fingers to your mouth. Keep them nice and clean. That's good. That is good. Okay. So, once again, I'm going to clean up my area. I always like a nice clean area so you're not just mixing everything all together. So I got that all cleaned off. I'm going to bring back our sauce, and as you guys can see, now it's had a chance to cool down a bit, it is quite thick. It's quite a thick sauce. That'll be perfect. So I've got our sauce here. We've got our 2 kinds of cheese, our Parmesan cheese and our mozzarella cheese. And then I've got my ricotta cheese and all of our cooked greens. So let me go get our crust. Okay guys, so do not follow my instructions on bringing a hot sheet pan over here. You definitely, one trick you can always do is if you have multiple sheet pans, you can switch this to a cold sheet pan, and then you don't have to worry about burning yourself. It's very important, but I think I'm gonna be okay. Okay, so now, oh, you know what I'm missing? I talked about it earlier, getting a spoon for spreading our sauce, and then I never got it. One more minute. Okay guys, so we are going to get started. Is everybody all set to go? We have our sauce here is the first thing we're going to start with. So I want a pretty good heaping scoop of sauce. And I like to just put it in all the corners. Make sure you put that scoop. I'm going to go for a second one. Doing it. All right. So just like that, we want to make sure when you're spreading it, you don't want to puddle on there. You want to be able to kind of see the crust underneath, because then once it comes out of the oven, especially since we still have our ricotta cheese to add too, you'll go and cut it and it'll just be sauce everywhere. So we want a pretty thin layer here. Okay. So as you guys can see, let me pick up my little star person. There's a pretty thin layer so you can kind of see the crust underneath it. All right, now that we have that on, we are gonna take a scoop of our ricotta cheese. And what I like to do with the ricotta cheese to help spread it out is I put little dollops all around. Just make sure it evenly gets distributed through our pizza. Dollop there. Perfect, and then we're going to take the back of the spoon and just kind of smush it down a little bit. Move it around. Are you guys at the same spot? How's it going? Okay, so now we've got our sauce on here, our white sauce. We've got our ricotta cheese, and now we're going to do our greens. So I'm going to take some of our greens, a little, whoop, can I make it over here? And just sprinkle it all around. I love these greens, so I'm gonna put a pretty thick layer, but you know, if you've never tried them before, maybe you just wanna put a few pieces, or maybe you wanna put it on one side, but I would definitely try some of your kale on your pizza, because if you've never tried it, how do we know we don't like it, right? Always good to try things, and then we can decide later if we don't like it. And either way, we have our whole other half of our pizza if we only put it on one side. Okay, so I've got a pretty good layer on there, and now we're gonna get sprinkling. So I'm gonna take some of my mozzarella, sprinkle that right on top, and then some of the parm. We're gonna keep going with that. Get nice layers of cheese. See, I already grated way too much cheese. I got plenty of cheese on here already. Could have saved my muscles some work. Okay, just like that. The reason why we're putting the kale underneath is because we already cooked it. So we want to make sure that the oven, since we're putting it back in that really hot oven, doesn't burn our kales. So underneath it'll keep it nice and soft and delicious. So there we go. Whoop! It runs away from me, don't do that. We've got our pizza all tapped there. We're gonna put this back in our 450 oven for about 8 to 10 minutes. What you're looking for, I'll come back and say that, is for all of our cheese to be melted. And you want it to have little bubbles, kind of like brown circles on it, and make sure it's all perfectly crunchy and delicious. So we put that in our oven, and like I do, I've got a little kitchen magic that I've got over here. And I've got our beautiful pizza. It's all done. So obviously you guys are gonna take a few more minutes to bake your pizzas, but I hope you guys enjoyed class today. Tomorrow, Miss Elena is gonna be making carrot raisin muffins at 11 o'clock, so that's gonna be super yummy. Definitely tune in. And then you can also check out our website. We put up some new virtual private classes where you can do it through Zoom with all of your friends. So check it out. Thanks so much.